everybody, welcome back to Smiling with Erin D. I'm Erin D. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Welcome back to another episode of Movie Bracket Challenge. So this is my coverage of Jungle Book 2. It starts off right where we left off in Jungle Book. Man Cub has found a family, and Man Cub tells all the other children about his time living in the jungle. They're all fascinated, especially his new little brother. And he loves sharing the stories of how Cherie, the tiger, I always mispronounce it, tried to get him. And he loves talking about Papa Bear, Abu, and he loves sharing his stories. And they all seem kind of unbelievable. But his little brother eats it up. And his little brother likes to be a tiger. And it's really cute. He loves the kids that he plays with. He tries to talk them all into going to the jungle with him, which gets him in a little bit of trouble when as soon as they start to cross the river, where he's not allowed to cross, Shanty, the girl he has a crush on, yells, "Stop!" And then Manchild's father, new father, Papa, punishes him and sends him to his room. Meanwhile, Baloo is missing his buddy, his Manchild, his better half, his singing buddy, and he's trying to get him back. But wouldn't you know it, nobody wants to let him. The elephants try making a wall so he can't get by. They try everything to stop him, but he sneaks by anyway. And he ends up getting to Manchild. And he sort of kidnaps him, kind of. Well, Manchild comes with him quite willingly. And at the same time, Cherie, the tiger, is trying to get him. And they're both in the city, or the village, where Manchild lives now. And Shanty sees the bear, thinking it's a wild animal. And she's scared, and she wants to protect her friend. And so she yells, "Wild animal." And of course, this gets Cherie, the tiger, in a little bit of trouble because everybody goes after him. Thank goodness. But that gives time for Baloo and Manchild to get away. And they go back into the jungle where they dance and they sing and they eat food just like they did in the first movie. In fact, they sing one of the songs from the first movie. And it's super cute. They're dancing around and then they sit to eat. And Manchild shows Papa Bear his new trick with the fruit. And Baloo goes, "How'd you know how to do that?" And he said, "Shanty showed me." And you can tell there's a little sparkle in the eye. And Baloo is concerned that Manchild wants to go home. But then Baloo goes, No. He wants to be with me, or he convinces himself. So they come up with a plan that if Shanty comes after them, that Papa Bear is going to scare her, make her go away. And at the moment, Manchild thinks this is a good plan. He, in fact, comes up with the plan. Well, they're singing along, and when you know it, that snake, he's trying to eat him again. But not even paying much attention, they attack that snake with berries that are prickly, with rocks, everything else, just by accident, just by singing their song and dancing around. They do get away, and they go back to another place we're very familiar with, where we saw all the animals singing in the first movie, the kingdom. But this time, it's more like a nightclub, a little different, still some great songs. All the animals are fascinated by Abu Papa Bear telling them all about Manchild's time in the village, but how Manchild's happier to be with him. And he tells everybody about Shanty and how she was bad. At this point, Manchild is not happy because he doesn't want his Papa Bear talking about the girl he has a crush on. And when you know it, he runs off. And at this point, he runs into Shanty and his little brother. And he realizes they did love him and miss him. And he's sort of happy to see them. But just at that moment, Papa Bear comes and scares Shanty just like the plan was. And he gets caught up in some vines, and then Shanty hits his nose. And he goes, "Hey, what about that?" And she goes, "You were trying to scare me." And he goes, "Well, that was the plan." And he says this to Manchild, who Shanty looks at and says, "You wanted him to scare me?" And then she takes the little brother and they walk off. And of course, at this moment, Manchild is super sad about this and is mad at Papa Bear. And Papa Bear's so confused, but he's starting to figure it out. And so Manchild goes after them, and Shanty ends up getting herself in a bit of a tangle. The tiger, Cherie, has found them, and they have to escape. Manchild risks himself, and they do get away. But as they're getting away, Manchild hides Shanty and his little brother into bushes, and he keeps running so the tiger will chase him. And he thinks the other two will be safe. But Shanty's not going to let her friend go into danger by himself. So she goes. And so does Papa Bear. And they end up getting in quite a bit of a mess because the tiger can destroy them all. But they don't care. They're friends and they're a family. And at this point, Shanty and Baloo, they become friends. Or at least allies. Because they have to save Manchild. Manju is hiding behind a big stone on what is a round, circular kind of building. And when you know it, Baloo stands behind another one, Shanty stands behind a third one, and they all bang on it. And this seems to confuse the tiger quite a bit. He doesn't know where to go. And then all of a sudden, the big stone, the circular, sort of like a bell, sort of falls down right in front of Shanty. And she is exposed. So the tiger knows he has her, which is going to get Manchild out from hiding because he's going to threaten her. The tiger, that is. And Manchild comes out from hiding and then sacrifices himself for the tiger, but he still makes the tiger chase him. And he jumps across with Shanty crosses all looks like volcano stuff, and they sort of make it, and the tiger makes it, but then all of a sudden the stone they're on starts to slip, and they start to fall. But just in the nick of time, Papa Bear reaches out his hand, catches Shanty, and Manchild grabs onto her, and they are saved. But the tiger, however, goes all the way down to the bottom. He doesn't off, he just sort of gets stuck. And that is the best resolution. We see that Shanty, Manchild, Papa Bear, and Baloo, they're all safe. But it's time for Shanty and little brother to go home. And it's time for Man Cave, to make a decision. Is he going to go back to the village, who have been looking for him and missing him? Or is he going to stay in the jungle, where he's comfortable and where he lived most of his life? Papa Bear makes the decision easy for him. He says he belongs in the village, and he sends him off. He sacrifices his own happiness for really his son, so he can find home, and his best friend. So Shanty goes off and home, and the man-child, goes back to his family, and he really makes them his family this time. He's not struggling back and forth. But at the end of the movie, Blue has come up with a compromise. Shanty and Manchild can cross the river they're not supposed to, tap some bottles, and he will come and see them so that Manchild, Manji, doesn't have to choose anymore. He can have both. He can be a boy from the village and the man-child from the jungle. And it's a beautiful ending to a great story. And thank you so much for joining me. Is it your vote? This is my review of 2007's Ratatouille. I love this movie. It was one of the first Blu-rays I ever bought, and I was super excited to buy it from the Disney Movie Club, and it was the first movie I ever got from them. Ratatouille starts in the countryside, and you see all these rats, and they're a family, and they eat garbage. Well, not Remy. Remy likes the taste of finer things. He doesn't like the taste of garbage. Food should not just be fuel, as what his father calls it. He thinks it should be tasteful. And he loves sneaking into the house and the kitchen and cooking and combining foods and especially watching one of his favorite chefs. His favorite chef has a cookbook, and the owner of the house even has the cookbook, and he loves looking through it. He loves watching the chef on TV. He can watch it from the kitchen while the old lady who owns the house sits on her chair and watches. She apparently doesn't wake up that often. So he sneaks in quite often. One day he's out with his brother, who is the only one who seems to, well, listen to Remy. I don't know if he quite understands Remy, but he likes to listen to Remy. And he will go where Remy tells him to, because he's a really good brother. Well, they sneak into the old lady's house to combine some ingredients they already have, and Remy wants another one from her kitchen. While Remy's looking around, his brother is getting really nervous that the old lady's going to wake up. Remy's like, no, she sleeps all through this, all the time. Don't worry. So Remy's looking through her stuff. The rat is just sitting there, and all of a sudden on the TV comes up the news. Remy's favorite chef has passed away. Remy is devastated. He's so sad. He's so devastated, even so, that he doesn't notice the old lady waking up. Oh no, he's in trouble now. The old lady wakes up, sees Remy and his brother, and freaks. She grabs her gun and starts shooting at them. And the brother starts running up. And Remy's like, no, because he doesn't want to give away where all the other rats are. But the brother's not listening. He's getting shot at, and shots are going through the ceiling, and he's stuck on a chandelier. But thankfully, the old lady has run out of bullets. So Remy's trying to get his brother off the chandelier while the old lady looks for more bullets. But just as she gets the bullets, Remy almost has his brother's hand, but he grabs it, and then Remy flies off the wall, and he's with his brother stuck on the chandelier. The woman shoots up, and crack goes into the ceiling, and when you know it, crack splits all the way around, and all the rats come down out of the ceiling. The woman freaks, and so the rats run. They run for the water, where they have rafts ready. They're all jumping on the rafts. Remy is a little bit behind them because he's tried to go back for his cookbook with his favorite chef. So Remy makes the water, but not the rafts. He's on his cookbook, floating forward. He can't quite make it to the other rats. The old lady is after them. She's on the bridge. And just as Remy's about to reach out to his father to get on the same raft, the woman's gun goes off, and they are separated. And then the father goes down one path and Remy goes down another, and they're separated. And now Remy is on his own. While he's on his own, he's looking at the cookbook, and his imagination goes wild. The ghost of his favorite chef comes out and leads Remy all around the city. And Remy figures out he's in Paris. He's excited to be in Paris, but he's sad to be alone. But Remy finds himself at the chef's fabulous restaurant. He's watching all the cooks cook, and he's having a grand time when he sees this one gentleman, Alfred, who's messing with the soup. He's putting all sort of ingredients in there that he shouldn't put in. It's not going to taste very good, and Remy knows it. Remy says somebody should warn them not to serve that soup. But when you know it, Remy falls through the ceiling. Thankfully, nobody sees him, but Remy's on the chase for his life to get out of there. And when you know it, he's escaping all these carts, and the oven goes off when he's underneath it. He almost gets stuck in the oven, but he makes it to the window almost, and he's right above the pot of soup which Alfred has messed with, and Remy decides he's going to fix it. And he has the ghost encouraging him. He's adding ingredients, and then Alfred catches him. Alfred puts a pot over him just in time for the head chef to come over and yell at Alfred for messing with the soup. And while he's yelling at Alfred for messing with the soup, one of the waiters comes in, puts the soup in a bowl. The bowl goes out to the restaurant. While Alfred is still getting yelled at, all of a sudden they realize what's happened, and they go to watch the soup getting served. And guess what? The soup's delicious. Everyone loves it. And it's a critic. So the critic loves it, gives it a great review, and all of a sudden our Alfred is now a chef. He realizes he has no skills, and this is bad. Also, he has the rat caught, and the chef figures out the rat is there. So they catch him in a glass jar, and Alfred asks, "What do you want me to do with him?" And he says, "Go kill him." He says, "Here?" And he goes, "No, not here. We'll get shut down." So he takes Remy off to the water. He's going to just dump the bottle in the water, and then Remy will be no more. He'll drown. But as he's about to do it, Remy looks straight at him. And of course Alfred feels bad. So then he starts talking to the rat. And the rat's nodding his head. And he goes, "Do you understand me?" And Remy's still shaking his head. And so Alfred tells him, "Hey, I know you're a cook. Will you help me?" And Remy says yes. But really, Remy just wants to escape. So Alfred lets him out, and Remy goes running. But then Remy feels bad. And he goes back to Alfred and agrees to help Alfred. And they go back to Alfred's apartment, which is pretty dungy looking, but it's an apartment. They go to sleep, and in the morning, Alfred's afraid that Remy has stolen all his food and took off. But when you know it, Remy's just cooking him breakfast, and it's totally cute and sweet. Alfred gets to eat, but Remy doesn't. Now, Remy hasn't eaten in a while because he was supposed to eat the food he was cooking at the old lady's house, and he didn't get to because he got distracted by his favorite chef being no more, and there we are. So they go back to the restaurant. They have come up with a terrible idea of putting Remy in the clothes of Alfred because they think that they can communicate this way because Remy will bite him when he's going to pick up something he shouldn't. But this works terribly because Alfred looks crazy. He's bouncing all around. He gets all these rat bites on him. So they come up with something different. They're going to put Remy underneath the hat because it turns out he can control Alfred from pulling his hair. They do a halfway decent job during the day, but at night they perfect it. They put a blindfold on Alfred, and Remy really learns how to use Alfred's body, and Alfred learns how to trust Remy. They even can cut things. They can make things together. It's awesome. Alfred goes back to work, makes a great dish, makes the soup again. because that's how he's going to keep this job, and he has impressed the chef. Well, impressed is a strong word, but he's got a job. Now, one of the other cooks who fought for Alfred to get a job has to actually become his teacher, and that would be Colette. And Colette is actually a good cook and the only female cook in the kitchen. So she warns Alfred, you better do your job because I'm not going down for anybody. But Alfred's willing to listen, and he learns a lot from Colette because Colette's actually a good cook, and she knows a lot of tricks, and she shows them to Alfred how to keep up in a busy kitchen. And Remy learns too. And they end up being a good team, and it's really cute. You can tell the crush is a little bit forming on Alfred's side. They get through the dinner, and Alfred's done a pretty good job, with Remy's help, that is, and the restaurant becomes more and more popular. The head chef is suspicious, though. He's also got a secret of his own. He's read the letter that Alfred gave him that got Alfred hired, a letter from his dead mother, and in the letter from the dead mother, it turns out that Alfred is the son of the dead chef, and the restaurant should really be his. Now, the head chef now was originally the sous chef, and in just a few days, he's supposed to inherit everything if no heirs have been found. So he's really suspicious of this letter. So he calls his lawyer, and his lawyer gets a piece of hair from the old chef's hat, and they get a piece of Alfred's hair from being a little mischievous, and they test it, and it turns out that it's true. Alfred is the great chef's son, but that chef is not telling anybody. Well, one night, Alfred and Remy get into a little bit of a fight, and they separate. Alfred gets drunk. Remy goes off with his family because he's found his family now. Well, his brother sort of found him. And Remy kind of tells his dad he's not going to stay with them. His dad goes, no, this is the way the world is. Rats stick together. We're a family. And he's like, well, you can't expect me to always be with you. You got to fly away sometime. He goes, we're not birds. You don't fly away. So Remy does it anyway. Remy goes back to the restaurant and finds out that Alfred really should own the restaurant. He should have inherited it in the first place. And the rat steals the paperwork just as the chef is coming in. The chef chases Remy all around the city, but he gets the papers to Alfred and Colette are sitting in the office when the chef comes in. They yell at him to get out. The chef yells at them to get out, and they say, no, it's Alfred's kitchen now. The chef is mad, but he's gone. Now, the restaurant has gotten great reviews, and this coming out who Alfred really is has gotten a lot of publicity. Well, there's a chef that once reviewed this restaurant, but actually gave it a bad review and thought this restaurant was off the map. Should only be for tourists. It's not an outstanding restaurant. Well, he hears about what's going on, that this restaurant is becoming a place to be again. So he's going to make a stand. He's going back right in the middle of this big interview, and he says he's going to review the restaurant again tomorrow night. During the interviews and stuff, Alfred didn't give any credit to Remy for helping him. Remy's really mad because Alfred's giving all the credit to his new girlfriend, Colette. And the relationship is just not going very well. Well, they end up arguing, and Alfred puts Remy outside. Remy takes off, and they're fighting right before this big dinner. Because Remy's been fighting with him, he invites his whole family to steal from Alfred's kitchen. While he's stealing from the kitchen, Alfred comes in, not knowing he's being robbed, and apologizes to Remy. During the apology, though, he figures it out, and that Remy is stealing from him and giving it all to the other rats. And this was really just a one-time thing, but Remy was just mad. They made mistakes, both of them did. But Alfred kicks Remy out and says if he comes back, then he'll do what he should do to rodents. Remy is heartbroken that his friend has done this because he really trusted Alfred. He really thought Alfred was his friend. And Alfred is really hurt because Remy could steal from him in a restaurant that they had really been running together, and he thought of as them. Well, the night of the big dinner, the big interview, none of the other people who work in the kitchen are there anymore. They've all left because of the egos going on and some trickery. But Alfred's got nobody, and he's got a packed house. He's just sitting in the office, sad and desperate. Remy comes in. His father comes in behind him and says he was wrong and that Alfred really was his friend. And then he offers to help. And actually, all the rat family is going to help him. And wouldn't you know it, at that exact moment when all the rats are lined up, one of those health inspectors comes in and he's seen all the rats. And oh no, that's going to shut down the restaurant. So some of the rats go after him to capture him. And then some of the rats help Remy get the dinner ready. They're serving up the dinner. Everybody's enjoying it because Alfred's being the waiter. He's doing what he can do on those skates, let me tell you. And everything's going great. And the critic comes in. Colette comes back. They make the ratatouille dish. And they make it exactly like the critic had it when he was a child. And I want to point something out. If you look at the scene where they do the critic's house and memory from when he's a child, it looks just like the old lady's house. And there are a lot of theories on this, and we're definitely going to dive in deeper, but I just want to point that out during the review. And he is thrilled. He wants to compliment the chef, and so he thinks it's the waiter. And the waiter goes, well, actually, it's not me. And he goes back to Colette, and they discuss if they should tell the chef, the critic, who the chef really is. They come back. They tell him if he wants to meet the chef, he'll have to stay till after everybody leaves. And he does. And then they introduce him to Remy. Remy finally gets his credit. Well, they don't know what the critic is going to do, but it turns out the critic doesn't turn him in. But the chef, the old chef, well, at this point, they've had to kidnap him because he's seen all the rats. They had to kidnap the food inspector. So those people do rat them out. So this restaurant does have to shut because, well, there were a lot of rats. And that's against health violations. But in the end, it's a great story. And Colette and Remy get a brand new restaurant of their own. And they cook together. And the place is packed. There's a little restaurant up top for all the rats to eat. And it's just a fabulous end to the movie. I love the movie, and I want to know what you think. And have you heard any, and have you heard any of the theories from this movie? I love the Pixar theories. Let me know if this is your vote, and thank you for joining. Don't forget to vote, comment section, and our community page.